Hi guys, in today's video we're going to be talking about how I got my new grad nursing position in labor and delivery right out of school. I am a December nursing grad. I went to school for my BSN, which is 4 years. I originally went into nursing school knowing that I wanted to do something in women's health. After working in the emergency department for a year, I do really like that aspect of nursing as well, but labor and delivery kept calling my name, so I applied to a bunch of labor and delivery jobs a semester before I graduated. I was very lucky to be able to get a labor and delivery nursing position right out of school. It's pretty hard to do. For the job I ended up getting, I applied a little too early initially. I had a recruiter reach out to me and tell me that I needed to wait a little bit and apply in October. So naturally, I applied the last week of September because that's just the type of person I am. For the job I ended up getting, I work at that hospital system right now in the emergency department. I knew they were hiring in labor and delivery because I have email notifications set up for every day. So every morning I get an email from my hospital's career website and it sends out a list of every job they have available that day. When I saw they had labor and delivery registered nurse, I jumped on that and probably was one of the first people to apply because I saw it on there. So initially I applied too early, but then I applied the last week of September because I saw the posting went live again through my email. Once you register for job alerts from all the hospital systems that you're interested in working at, your next step would be making sure you have a really competitive resume. I just use a free resume builder online. Some of them you make the whole resume and you get to the end and it wants you to check out. I can link in the description the free resume builder I use, and it's truly free. You can download it as a PDF at the end and it doesn't charge you anything. It looks really professional, and I feel like having a professional looking resume that's not super boring but also isn't really busy is going to really help you stand out. I include everything on my resume. Any pertinent volunteer experience, all of my school stuff that makes me sound really good. You really want to sell yourself because these people are looking at resumes all day, every day. You want something that's going to make you stand out against other people. When I was in high school, I volunteered with this Teen Mom program. I put that on there because it was working with the community and I got to work with babies. And I made sure to list things that would be relevant in labor and delivery, like how I do vitals on babies all the time. However you can make your current work experience relevant. Do it! Another thing I did that I've never done in the past when applying for a job was I made a cover letter. I used to just not do cover letters, which is probably pretty naive of me. With a job where a lot of people are going to be applying for the same position, I would highly recommend making a cover letter. I think it looks really professional and it can help set you a little bit ahead of anybody else that's applying for the position. Bonus points if you can figure out who the hiring manager is in the area you're applying to and to address it to them. So you've made your resume, you've made your cover letter, you've applied for the positions, and now you wait. After a few weeks, I had a recruiter from my hospital reach out to me via text and ask to set up an interview and a shadow. I highly recommend asking to do a shadow on the unit you're applying to get an idea of what the unit is like, what it looks like, and if you think it'll be a good fit for you. When I applied to be a care tech at my current hospital, I had an interview via labor and delivery care tech at a different hospital system the same week. I almost didn't even go to my emergency department care tech interview because I was so sure I was going to like the labor and delivery position better. After my interview and my shadow, I realized it would not be a good fit for me. And I went and interviewed to be the emergency department care tech at a different hospital. And the care tech told me how much she loved her job. I could see how everyone really liked their job. And now I've worked there for over a year and I love my job. So it definitely was pretty true to how the shadow went. I recommend getting to your interview 15 minutes early. I had to wear scrubs for my interview because I was doing a shadow. If they don't tell you to wear scrubs, I would highly recommend dressing either business casual, leaning towards business professional, because you want to look like you're taking it very seriously. If you want to bring a bag with a pair of scrubs and tennis shoes in it, just in case you end up doing a shadow, I think that's a great idea. I brought a few copies of my resume printed out to give to the interviewers. I actually made notes before my interview and I'm going to reference them because I planned for every question. I had like an answer typed out. So before my interview, I sat and Googled what some popular interview questions were for new nurses or labor and delivery nurses, and I wrote out kind of like what I would say or like some key points I would say. Those came in handy so much. I studied those notes going up the elevator to my interview while I was waiting for my interviewers to come out. I was sitting there reading through it. I just tried to memorize it beforehand. So you want to seem very passionate during your interview. Hopefully you are pretty passionate about the job you're trying to get. You want to almost start to run the interview a little bit. At least I think so. I was a manager for a few years and I did all the hiring for new employees at one of my old jobs. And I loved when they seemed very passionate. They they had a lot of questions. They were talking as much as I was. So I don't think it's a bad idea to just start talking. Make as much eye contact as you can. The more eye contact you can make, the better. So I talked about volunteering with like at-risk teen moms. Talk about how you felt during your OB clinical if you liked it. For me, the hospital I'm going to be working at is inner city. It's the county hospital. It's very urban. And I've had a year of experience working in the emergency department, so I definitely know how it can be. I talked about how I've grown to really like the culture of so almost just doxed myself. I talked about how I love the culture of the hospital I work at and how it's something you have to kind of like grow to love. And I just talked about how like I am really passionate about helping people who are at risk, helping people who really have nobody else, who don't have insurance, who are scared, maybe don't have any prenatal care. I talked about my own personal experience. You might not have any. Have a lot of good questions to ask your interviewers. It really helps you look like you've thought through this position and you are
an avid learner.
So some of my questions were, what does a successful nurse look like on your unit? This is a really good question to ask because an interviewer might say,
oh, like we value family time and work-life balance and, our nurses being able to have a life outside of work.
But if you ask them what a successful nurse on their unit to them looks like, and they say,
oh, someone who's always picking up overtime, someone who's always on the unit, someone who just loves work and loves being here.
You can see a little bit more of what they truly value in a person and what they might expect of you. Another question I asked are what certifications are available for nurses. It shows that you're interested in bettering yourself. I asked specifically about if they had any breastfeeding certifications or the ability for a nurse to become a lactation consultant. A great question to ask either in the middle or at the end of your interview is, I love feedback. Is there anything that stands out about me from this interview that you think wouldn't make me a great fit? This could allow them to be honest and say like, well, we're thinking maybe you don't have enough experience, and you can kind of counter that with why you think you do have enough experience. Or they might say, no, like you seem like a really great fit. Have a plan for what you're going to say for your strengths and weaknesses. This can be like the hardest question because it's hard to like brag on yourself, and also you don't want to give a weakness that's going to make you look like you're going to be a bad nurse. So for strengths, I talked about how I'm willing to learn from my mistakes. I'm not like one of those people that's like, oh, I know. That's really dangerous when a new nurse or any new medical professional thinks they know it all. So just kind of referencing that like, hey, I know I'm new and I'm willing to learn from my mistakes. Another strength I listed is that I try to always view situations from a patient's perspective. I try to think, well, how are they thinking about this? Like, how does this feel to them? How does this look to them? A lot of times, especially as a new nurse who don't have that experience of being a patient before necessarily, and you're kind of just thinking like task oriented. So thinking bigger picture, like, okay, maybe my patient is scared and that's why they're doing this, or maybe they're nervous about this situation and that's why they're being this way. Trying to view a situation from a patient's perspective to empathize, but also understanding that I will never truly understand their unique situation. So even though you've been in a very similar situation potentially as this patient, you have not been in the same position as this patient. I think saying things like that is really good in a labor and delivery nursing position interview. For my weaknesses, I was honest. I talked about how as a patient care tech, I don't delegate. Everything is kind of delegated to me. And if I can't get it done, it's like, well, you have to get it done. Get done as much as you physically can in your shift. So delegation is going to be something that I'm going to have to completely learn how to do. So for me, I did not have any relevant experience. I worked in the emergency department, but that's really not relevant experience. I tried to spin it that it was relevant experience, but on the job posting, it said 1 to 2 years of labor and delivery experience, which I definitely don't have. So I thanked them at the end of my interview. I did my shadow and then I left. That night, I sent an email to my interviewers thanking them for interviewing me. I think that's a really important thing to do. My recruiter texted me the next night saying that they were going to be giving me an offer. That's how I got my registered nurse position as a new grad. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, be sure to like the video, leave a comment below and let me know what you think or what questions you've experienced during your interview. I appreciate you guys so much watching my videos. It really, really helps and supports me. I'll see you guys next time.